Well, Usurp the Shadow Throne, spoiler season has officially begun, and while we're getting cards for, well, let's just say the other two heroes in the form of Levia and Mr. Viserai himself, the thing I'm most interested in is, well, how our new Necromancer is going to function. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. We've seen a handful of spoiler cards, not necessarily her time just yet, but we have seen things like Bone Barrier and a couple of other pieces. So I want to talk about this hero because I think it's really cool how we have this through line for Necromancer between the two Necromancers we now have, Malice, of course, Domina of the Dead, and Mr. Gravy Bones himself. There are things that they do that are similar that really make you feel like the Necromancer, right? Tying this class together in its function, but they're going to play so completely differently. And we also kind of have to ask the question, is this a hero that is going to actively push Gravy Bones out in favor of what she can do? Because in a way, with how her zombies function, and we'll talk more about this, but she's very much like a necrotic ninja, if you will. She's throwing a bunch of these 0-for-3s that can live on the board. And you can see, like, they have the ability to attack, but they also have the ability at action speed to do other things like gain life, tap and gain life, or they have on-hit effects that are annoying, right? More so than the allies that Gravy Bones have at his disposal. But it's going to be interesting to see how this is all constructed, because I could see her on paper being a very powerful hero, with one caveat, something that we don't actually know yet, and that is what we're going to talk about today. So first things first, let's get everything out of the way. Malice, Domina of the Dead, is a Shadow Necromancer hero in this upcoming Usurp the Shadow Throne set. She has 4 intellect, she has 40 health, and she has the effect that says action, pay 1 and tap the hero. When you do that until the end of the turn, you can play target zombie from your graveyard. This does say target zombie, so there has to be a zombie in the graveyard that you can target, and this is not playing a zombie from the banished zone. That is important to note as well. Now, whenever a zombie you control dies, you banish it face down in the same way that you would, put a card face down in the graveyard. You banish it face down and create a Corrupted Corpse token, or not a token, but just a Corrupted Corpse in your banished zone. So it essentially hits its watery grave trigger, just like Gravy Bones, but it does so in the banished zone face down. You can't access it again, and in its place, a Corrupted Corpse token pops up, which is really cool because those Corrupted Corpse tokens can be played out, and you can get rid of them. In fact, I think we have the Corrupted Corpse down here. You can play this out, and it becomes essentially just another attack on the board. This card's attacks get go again, which is pretty nice. And by the way, if you're wondering how you actually pay to attack, you can actually do that here. Zombies you control get action, pay 1, tap to attack with the Vox Necropolis. So you can build up this board state of normal zombies, and then they die either through your opponent killing them or through them dying from decay, which we can talk about, and Corrupted Corpses will pop up in its place, but you have to pay for them, and that's the key point. Where Gravy Bones appeared to be a very heavy blue deck, and it turned out that was the case, a very heavy blue deck fitting the Nautical High Seas theme, this is looking much more like it's going to be a pretty red line deck, which I guess kind of fits as well, because this is a hero that kind of fits in that, maybe a red exclusive by its archetype deck isn't the right way to describe it, but it's a hero that fits into that like blood debt, blood red theme, where you're leaning into a bunch of 0-cost allies, in this case a bunch of 0-cost zombies that can tap to attack but can also tap to do other things. They all cost you nothing, they all attack for 3, they're all head jabs until you get a Restless Commander out, in which case now you're playing Tribal Magic the Gathering to some degree, which is kind of funny because now all of your 0-for-3s become 0-for-4s. But the question will be stringing them together in attacks, because, well, that's one of the questions. We don't know how this is necessarily going to play out because I'm still speculating way far in advance of us seeing everything. There's 2 pieces of this puzzle that I think we're really questioning here. One of them is how we actually plan to effectuate a game plan. Like, are we looking as Malice to build up a large board state of zombies in some way and then string their attacks together, because keep this in mind. This can attack for 3 based on this action, pay 1 to attack. This doesn't have go again on the attack, right? Like that is a key point. And currently in the suite of equipment here, there's not like a linchpin piece that necessarily just says, you know, like all of your zombie attacks have go again, a la Dromai. It's not like Dromai wherein you just have go again on a stick. So is this going to be a type of deck that we build out a bunch of zombies and just kind of like pour them onto the board with impunity? These are not the same type of zombie allies like Gravy Bones, where each of those allies were like these, these crew members that you relied on for specific purposes. These are like, I don't care at all about this character. Maybe I'll just take some life. I don't care at all about Restless Magister. From like a lore standpoint, it's a hunk of bones I resurrected, and it has an on hit. So like, whereas you were perhaps tied to some, this art is brutal, by the way. You were tied in some like deep-seated caring fashion, at least I was, to some of the Gravy Bones allies because they're your crew. Here, these are just an amalgamation of bone and flesh that have some sort of beneficial on hit. Like this one banishes the arsenal. This one banishes a card from hand, which is going to be quite good and is a rare, by the way, so solid in Silver Age. So these are like all very, I guess, throwaway in the perfect Necromancer sense, like little character allies that you don't care about at all, but also how can you string them together? That's going to be the first question that I think most of us are going to want answered through this spoiler season. Is this a hero that's trying to build this long board state and then string, like 3 into 3 into 3 and then ask these questions like a ninja? Because I could see that being the case, but we don't necessarily have the bones for that. And I do mean that with every pun intended. Like, we don't have the pieces necessarily to do that. I mean, I guess you could try to put in like rainbow copies of, Flying High or whatever. But it doesn't strike me as it stands right now that that's the build style, unless we get a very powerful like 9 of. A golden tipple-esque card that would enable that. And we definitely could, but it's certainly not printed here on Vox Necropolis, which gives the zombies you've played from Graveyard Banished Zone the ability to enter tapped, and when this enters the arena, attack with it. This forces the attack through, but notice how this is not necessarily this, and this is not giving go again. Like, this is a cool like effect wherein, like, in the same way that you can as a warrior now force your sword to attack at attack reaction speed, which is very awesome, by the way. We're kind of getting that with these allies. We don't have a way to go and string these attacks together, but I do see a world where we could perhaps do that if they print a Golden Tipple style card. Now, that's thing number 1, perhaps problem, hurdle to overcome number 1. But then the question for number 2, and this was the one that was really racking my brain. How do we actually play these out in a way that gets us the value? How do we get these into our graveyard or into our banished zone and then out of our banished zone into our graveyard? We need a lot of tools to sort of manipulate that. We see a couple of them, like Dig for Souls. That's something that we can actually kind of leverage because it allows you to look at the top X cards of your decks and then drop a zombie from those cards into the graveyard, and then you just kind of put the rest on the bottom. And the nice thing is this also gives a +4, and then it destroys the zombie. So it gives you immediate access to what could be more powerful in that they're not slowly decaying, these corrupted corpses, which are 2 cost and swing for 3 and get go again as well. So that could be like one way to get rid of cards. We also have, cards like this, which tell us, they kind of signpost us towards what we want to be doing or what we could be doing. And that is getting cards from our hand into our banished zone. And this is where the shadow talent really kind of comes into play, in that the shadow talent is all about banishing cards in some way, shape, or form. Cards going into the banished zone. Like you look at, Shadow Runeblade, and they're either banishing cards off of Soul Shackles or they're banishing cards as a cost of their hero effect. But they're getting cards into banished zone, and then they're using those cards from the banished zone. And then you look at like Levia, you're getting cards from the graveyard and you're putting them in banished zone to meet requirement X or Y, like an additional cost style thing. Here, it's almost like we're playing around with either the graveyard or the banished zone, because you can play target zombie from your graveyard. And in some cases, like for example here, we're putting cards into our graveyard, but we also have the ability to take, cards from our banished zone out of our banished zone and into our graveyard. So this is going to be the really interesting thing. Same thing here, like with Bridge of Damnation, like you have the ability to take cards that you've dropped into your banished zone out of them so that you can actually access the zombies themselves. I am wanting to see how this deck and how this hero is going to plan to get cards into banished zone, because we have a lot of things, like I showed you, that get cards out of banished and into grave, right? Specifically allies. We have ways to do that. But if we, we don't yet know how many they're going to be, like how we're going to effectuate this sort of cycle. It's like a circle, if you will, where we go card from hand, becomes card from banished, becomes card in grave, and then we can play it. It's a fun sounding like little loop we're going to engage with. The quest is interesting, and I am a big quest fan because I like the idea of like working for the thing that you're doing. But it also could be that is inherently not powerful. So there's this question mark that I have with this hero. I am very intrigued to see how it plays out, and I have a very big feeling. I mean, obviously, when LSS sits down to design a hero that looks like this, that was on an iconic piece of art already that represented the like Necromancer class brand, if you will, like that's really how we should call it. This is going to be a hero that functions. Now, it may not be a game-breaking hero, or it may be a quite powerful hero. I mean, when you're able to put cards that you really don't care about, like your opponent really doesn't want to remove a 0/3, like with 3 that's going to kill itself eventually, decay is going to happen. Eventually, this thing is just going to make its way to the graveyard. They're not going to necessarily want to deal with that unless we make them deal with it. So it begs the question, like, how does this hero end up playing out its game plan of getting you to 0 with these zombies? And is that going to be the primary thing, or is it like this sort of dual, like, I don't even know what to say, 2 tendrils that are working together to submerge you? Sorry, that's more of a Gravy Bones like reference than it would be, I guess, a Malice reference here. Either way, the question becomes, how is she going to actually get there in the long run? And if she manages to be powerful, the final question I'll leave you with is, what does this do to another board state hero? If you look at Gravy Bones in Silver Age, he is a relatively powerful hero, and now he has even more power because he has access to cash in. But he has 0 chance to win a game against Dromai, because Dromai just does the ally board state thing so much easier, so much better, and with far more like wide-reaching combat chains. Whereas Gravy Bone has to work way harder for it. So this could be a hero, if they get given the tools to build a board state with impunity, a la Dromai, but maybe with extra steps. This could be a hero that absolutely pushes Gravy Bones off of the face of the earth. Or it could be a hero if it is too difficult to complete whatever quest we have to go on of getting things in banished, because we don't have Vincent triggers, and getting things into graveyard because that's how we actually want to use Malice's effect to get us our allies, and then finally get the allies on the board. That might end up being slower than necessary, and Gravy Bones just remains the top dog. Either way, I'm really intrigued, and I cannot wait for the Malice portion of the spoiler season to truly begin, because this really could be the Necromancer ninja that so many of us had considered back in the day when Necromancer first made its debut with Gravy Bones. So that's what I got for you. If you're interested in this hero as well, let me know that down in a comment below. I want to know what you're thinking, because maybe I missed something. This is a real head scratcher of a hero because we don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, and this, more than so many others, feels like we need a lot of pieces to really understand what she can really do. So let me know what you think in a comment below, and if you like this kind of thing and you want to hear it for the other 2 heroes, make the number go to the other number. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.